G'day gang, and how's it going? Welcome to Jensens' Journey of Discovery.
Because I've been hurt before, I'm going to use the tongs to carry it over. There's no way I'm touching that with my hand. And the tip's fitting in just fine, but higher up the shank is still a bit too girthy to fit in, so we're going to have to grind it a bit more. An enthusiastic g'day gang, and how you going? Welcome back to the Jensensverse. Today we'll be working on grinding the shank of the hot cut hardy to square it up and get it to size. Exciting stuff, let's crack on. So you can see it's starting to drill into my thick skull. PPE is important. I've got my gloves here to protect my arms from any fine metal dust, which can get into your skin and make it uncomfortable as fuck. So it's not explicitly necessary, but it makes for a more comfortable next day. Oh, I love that sound. So the disc we're using on the angle grinder this time is different from the one we used last episode. So last episode we used the cut-off grinding disc, a thinner disc that due to its thinness can cut through metal quickly. It's worth pointing out though that the thinner the wheel, the easier it is to shatter and snap, which can be very dangerous. So for beginners, a thicker cut-off disc is recommended. This episode we're going to be using the grinding wheel, a disc made for metal removal. Grinding wheels come with different grits, just like sandpaper, and give off lots of sparks when grinding. Another safety note, the sparks not only get into your skin, like I mentioned, but they can also melt and embed themselves into glass and can burn holes into some clothing. So make sure you don't have any of your granny's stained glass next to your grinding area. And as always, you know the expression, PPE people, PPE. Finally, anytime you're grinding or sanding anything, you should be wearing a respirator. It's not worth fucking up your lungs, and besides, they look badass as fuck. You can see a bit of the force of those sparks. They're pushing that clamp's thingy madooby whacker up, just from the sheer pressure of those sparks. Today's going to be an educational video, guys. While we're grinding away, I'm going to point out those little bursts you can see at the end of these sparks. These sparks can actually be a really useful indicator of the carbon content of the steel. A test called a spark test could be used to determine how high the carbon content is. If you're interested in finding out more, let me know in the comments and I'll try and make a video. But if you don't want to wait, there are plenty of videos on YouTube that explain it. So it's coming along nicely, looking nice and square. So let's take it over to the anvil, slot it in the hardy and see how we're going so far with that fit. Because I've been hurt before, I'm going to use the tongs to carry it over. There's no way I'm touching that with my hand. And the tip's fitting in just fine, but higher up the shank is still a bit too girthy to fit in, so we're going to have to grind it a bit more. On this zoom in, you can see that the shank isn't an equal thickness at the end and the top, so that's what we're going to strive for now. Back to the grinding. So much like my teenage years, I'm experimenting with different angles. Instead of locking the axe head on a vertical orientation, I'm now locking it horizontally so I can get to the sides, which was proving difficult without a bench vise. I do have the two bench vices, but unfortunately at the moment I don't have any surface that I can bolt them to. But stay tuned for that video because there will be one. So this is probably a horrible way of doing it. I just don't know any better ways, so if you're watching this and you do know, please let me know in the comments, and that way we all get to learn together. Sound good? It's at this point that I'm not entirely sure if the camera is actually recording. The great thing about being batch blind is I can't see that little blinky red light that the GoPros have. Well, we've been watching me showing off my fucking editing skills long enough. Pretty sure we know that I'm just standing there grinding. So let's cut to some progress, shall we? So I've got the hot cut hardy in the anvil, and I'm going to take this bit of spring steel I cut out of a, wouldn't you know it, coil spring. I'm going to heat this bad boy up and then see how well we can cut it with the hardy. The hardy shank still needs a little work, but I think we're all keen to see it in action. So I've left it to heat up a bit and it's time to pull it out. If you can't see how optimistic I am by my face, you'll see my optimism definitely pays off. Other than this being extremely hard to hold on because of how thick the steel is, and the problem I'm still having with that one set of tongs, the fact that the steel is very hard makes this process even more fun for me. So not being able to hold on to the steel is making it a bit more difficult, but it's definitely cutting. At this point I can't help smiling about the fact that if I had another pair of tongs this would be so much easier, but you know, what can you do? We've got what we've got for the moment. So you can see it has cut into it a bit. At this point in time I'm not going to try and go all the way through. I'm going to get another pair of tongs, it's a bit more safe, and then I'll make a quick clip of it cutting all the way through. As always, cheers for coming and hang out with me, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I'll catch you next time. Jensen out.